Hey guys, welcome to a segment that I like to call From the Ground Up. For those who don't know me, my name is Alyssa and I am a self-published author of a book called Catatonic. So I'm really excited because I made a couple of these videos about a year ago, but then I kind of lost touch with them because 2019 was a super busy year. Long story short, my husband and I, we've been together for 4 years this year, actually. But we were long distance for a little bit last year, and he finished up his contract with the Marine Corps, and then he got out, and then we moved. So we've kind of just been like hopping all over the place. Now we're in Alabama, originally from Florida. We lived in Arizona, settling in Alabama. So that's my chicken cooking in the crock pot. I promise my kitchen's not on fire. But yeah, so long story short, it was just a really busy year. But on top of it being a busy year moving wise and like life changes wise, I published my first book, which, oh my goodness, that's my cat, is right here. It's called Catatonic. For those of you who haven't read it, it is a psychological thriller, which is definitely my specialty. I love all things creepy, weird, psychological. I'm actually minoring in psychology, majoring in childhood education. So pretty much when you read my books, it's like you're kind of reading a psychology textbook, but in a fun way. I guess that's the best way that I can put it. But anyways, this segment is something new. It's an author's guide to writing. So I'm just gonna kind of like go over a few things about what it's like to start writing a book. Because the scariest thing is getting started, especially when you don't know where to go, what to do. Just like you have all of these ideas that are swarming around in your mind and you don't know how to put them onto paper. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna help you with that. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you guys get all of those thoughts onto paper and make something magical, because I think that a lot of people out there have some really awesome stories to tell, but they don't know how to get started. They're too nervous to, they don't know how to structure their book. Hey, we all have to start somewhere, right? So my biggest advice before you even start putting words on a paper is to kind of to have a little bit of an outline. There are different types of writers that we call plotters and pantsers. I'm a little bit of both because I like to plot some parts of the story. I always have a beginning and I always have an end, which I think is important because if you don't have an ending, it's kind of hard to write a story without plot holes and without a clear direction when you don't know how it's going to end. That being said, Catatonic was supposed to end a little bit differently than it did, but it still kind of ended in a similar direction, so I was able to kind of swing it a little bit and it worked. It worked out. But my biggest thing is before you even start writing, have a clear beginning, middle, and end. That way, when you actually start to get the words on a paper and you start to get all your thoughts out, you kind of have this general direction of where you're going and what you're wanting to do with the book. Another question that I get pretty often is how I make my characters super realistic, which is definitely kind of like my strengths, I would say, is that all of my characters feel like real people. Like Switch, I feel like this genuine connection with. I feel like he has been my best friend my whole life, but he doesn't exist. Maybe that's because in a way I put a part of myself in him, not the serial killer aspect, I promise. But, you know, he does tackle a lot of anxieties and worries and stuff, especially in my sequel, Switch. I think my biggest advice for making characters just seem like real people, you want them to be three-dimensional. You don't want them to be like super bland, like two-dimensional. You know, you don't want people to not feel empathy for them. You don't want people to read your characters and just be like, oh, whatever. You know, I don't even remember their names kind of thing. You don't want that. You want your characters, every single one of them, even background characters, you want them to make such an impact on the reader that the reader can't get them out of their mind. You want them to be like, oh my God, I want to learn more about this character. I feel like this character has so much to tell. You know, you want to really make all of these characters feel like they're real people. You want to be able to think that you can pick up the phone and call one of these characters and have a conversation with them. And you want to be able to think like, oh yeah, I know this about this character. Oh my gosh, I can really relate to this character because they've went through these trials and tribulations. They went through these struggles and I went through this too. That's so essential in a book, to establish these characters that will be able to maybe relate to everyone, maybe relate to some people. And sometimes, the characters might not relate to someone at all, but that makes them so unique because like us, characters are human. Even if they're not real, they are human. Sometimes. If you're reading fantasy, they might not be very human, but they still need to have depth. They still need to have a purpose. They have to have drive towards the certain objective in the book. That's my biggest thing. Avoiding cliches, making characters three-dimensional, making them seem real, making them seem like they're your long-lost best friend, someone that you can literally pick up your phone with and have like a 2-hour-long conversation with because they seem that real. And I guess my closing statement would just be to challenge yourself. A lot of people are always like, only write what you know. I call BS on that. I think that you shouldn't write just what you know, because then how are we supposed to challenge ourselves and how are we supposed to learn about different topics if we're just writing stuff that we're comfortable with? Like, for example, again, my character Adelaide, she has schizophrenia. I personally don't have schizophrenia, so what I did is I challenged myself with her character and I did a ton of research on what it's like to live day to day with schizophrenia. So that's the biggest thing, is you want to be able to do this research. You have to put a lot of time and effort into your books. Otherwise, it's just going to fall a little bit flat because it doesn't have all of that depth. Depth is the biggest thing in writing. You want people to be able to analyze. You want like English teachers to pick your book to be like, why are the curtains blue? It's like there has to be symbolism in your book. There has to be foreshadowing. There has to be depth and layers, because otherwise it's just one of those quick reads that people kind of forget about. You want to make an impact with your writing. You want people to read your book and think about it for hours, for days, for weeks. You want people to take your book and bring it to someone and be like, oh my God, this is so good. You have to read this. That's all I really have to say for this first segment, is just, getting started. It is the scariest part of writing. It is terrifying trying to get all of your thoughts together of this world that you've envisioned and trying to put it onto paper. It's not an easy thing. But if you just kind of stick to this advice about, making your characters dimensional, avoiding cliches, and challenging yourself, I really, really think that you guys can make some amazing stories and make huge impacts and make a name for yourself. I'm really excited though, because we are going to go through some more topics, a little bit more in depth about how to start writing, because I know that it can be kind of challenging just to even get the words on a paper, because sometimes I see these scenes in my head and like trying to write them onto paper, it's very jumbled. So I'll kind of help you guys through that in later segments, and I'll kind of walk you guys through my process personally, and hopefully I can help a couple of you guys and make an impact. It's really nice to meet you guys. I'm Alyssa DiCarlo. I do have a website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of that fun stuff I'll be putting in the description. So if you want to keep in touch with me, all of that will be on there. I update my website pretty frequently, so you can read all stuff about my new books. I've got 3 books right here. This one's already released and these 2 are coming this year. So keep an eye out for those. But this was really a fun segment, and I'm sorry that I ramble on a lot. I have a really bad habit of doing that. But I really look forward to speaking with you guys more about writing.